Hello and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Millie and I love any makeup, especially shiny, shifty, and sparkly eyeshadows. And today I'm going to be talking about the Holiday 2021 eyeshadow palette from Melt Cosmetics, and that is the Amor Y Mariposas palette. And this is what it looks like on the outside. It is absolutely stunning. This whole collection is really beautiful. However, it was very expensive. There was a lot of pieces and they were all pretty pricey, and the whole PR kit was like $425. Originally $450, $25 discount. So from this collection, I only got the palette as well as the mirror because I really love the design on it, and I think it's just such a perfect sizing. And honestly, you can't have enough hand mirrors around, especially when they're nice and small like that. So first off, here's what the color story looks like for this year's eyeshadow palette. You can see that there's a lot more shades than usual. They're round pans and they're smaller pans, and this palette retails for $70 whopping dollars. Yes, 70. And I also didn't know that they had a code at the time I purchased this, finally when they made all the pieces from the collection available separately. So unfortunately I missed out on a 25% off code, which I think would have definitely been much more realistic for this palette. So I was really kicking myself for that, and I feel like this color story reminds me a bit of like a smash between a couple of different palettes. So definitely the Vita palette and the Morte palette, which were a part of the holiday collection from a couple years ago, and that collection was such a huge hit. So I feel like they're trying to kind of sort of like recreate that in a sense in here with smaller pans, and I'm really curious to see if they're gonna continue doing something like this in the future, or if they're gonna just continue on with their vertical pans. I'm really curious to see what kind of follows this collection. So let's get right into some swatches. I will also be showing you some swatch comparisons between some palettes that I have from Melt, and then I'll get straight into the 4 looks, and at the end of the video I'll give you my thoughts on this palette. First up, top swatch is Salito Lindo from the new palette. And then right here is Angelito from the Morte palette. And then next to that is Blue Dream from the Smoke Sessions. And then here is Sweet Tooth from the Smoke Sessions. The one from the new palette is more green. Then we have Mesquite versus Gemini from the Gemini palette. They do feel different actually as well. Mesquite feels very like thick and waxy, while my Gemini, I mean, it's an older palette, but it does feel like looser in the pan. It was a little hard to pick up and put down. Next up is Mariposa versus Alegria from the Vita palette. The texture feels different. The shade from the Vita palette is way more satin. It doesn't even have much of a shine. Mine is, again, a little older. It feels a bit smoother, while Mariposa feels just thicker and waxier. Again, it's got a little bit more of a reflect, and it is more orangey versus red. Next up is Guamuchil versus Chronic from the 420 palette, and Leo from the Gemini palette. And they're pretty all similar. Leo's definitely just like more of a earthy green, while the other ones are more like a subdued green, but Guamuchil is darker than both of them. Here's Mensaje from the Amor Y Mariposas palette and Soul from the Vita palette. Similar but different. Mensaje is more of like a pastel versus a bright orangey yellow. Te Adoro and Senalis from the Amor Y Mariposas palette. And then on to Atoli from the Vita palette, Mari from the Mary Jane palette, Hash from the 420 palette, Luna from the Gemini palette, and this is One More Thing from the 27 palette. So there's definitely some similarities. Again, I don't think these 2 shades were needed in this palette whatsoever. They're just so close in the depth, as well as the tone is just like slightly different. This one's more yellow and then this one's more warm, but I don't think that you needed these. So these are all kind of slightly different. There are some very similar shades though. Here's Maria and here's Charo from the Amor Y Mariposas palette. Below here we have Velorio from the Morte palette and Sangre from the Morte palette. You can see these are almost exactly the same, especially Velorio and Charo. I think those are, let me just build it up a little bit more. I feel like they're pretty much the same. And then Sangre is just a bit more brownish burgundy compared to Veloria. Here's Abrazos and Nueva Vida from the Amor Y Mariposas palette. And here's Moxie from the 27 palette. Just wanted to see kind of how it compares in tone compared to these, because when I used Abrazos I felt like it was pretty orangey on the lid, but it's definitely more of like a reddish orange, but it is a bit redder than Moxie. Last shade is Perla from Amor Y Mariposas, Mexicana from the Vida palette, and Corazon from the Morte palette. And I think Corazon is just a little bit more similar. It's slightly different, but it's similar enough. And then Mexicana is just so red. You can see like straight up pigment. So I prime my lid with the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer. I'm gonna go in with Abuelita. Oh, okay. Okay. I see that's very pigmented. I was somehow not really expecting that. I'm using the Blend Bunny brushes, trying them out before I do like a full video. So I think that blended out pretty nicely. So now it's not as impactful. So I'm gonna go in with a little bit more and just kind of tap it right into the crease. And then next to it, going in with Perla, which is basically just a slightly darker version of Abuelita. I'm gonna take a larger blending brush from Blend Bunny and just blend out the edges of that. Next I'm taking Almohada and I'm gonna put it on the outer edge. Just first stamping it on and blending it out. Doesn't seem to really want to blend. There we go. And I'm gonna blend the edges of Perla and Almohada so that it's nice and blended there. And I'm gonna go in with Nube because it is just like a little bit darker purple, and layer that over Almohada and just again blending. It's gonna be a super dramatic look, but I feel like that's all I do anyway. Most of the time. I'm gonna take Nube under my lower lash line. Taking the NYX Glitter Primer. And I'm gonna create a fake half cut crease. Going in with Mariposa on the lid. Okay, this shade is not really shiny. I'm not really quite sure what I was expecting, but it just looks a little bit more like satin, but like it's like thick. And I'm gonna go in with Tequila and put that on the inner third. Go back in with Mariposa. I'm gonna extend it and just blend it a little better into the champagne shade. I'm gonna take Abuelita under my lower lash line right next to that deep purple. Just extend it all the way to the inner corner. The lashes are Code Orange from the Glam Light and Michaela collab, and in the waterline I have Mango Tango from Beauty Creations. And here's the first finished look. The second look, I'm going to do full cut crease. So I'm going in with a sticker from Crown Noir. Actually, I'm going to scoot it up a bit more. And I do have a link in my description. It is not affiliated or anything. It's just because a lot of people have been asking about this one. So I don't have any primer down yet. So going in with the Natasha Denona primer, just placing it above the sticker. So I'm not going to be putting any eyeshadow on my lid yet. Going in with Carino. And I'm taking that right against a sticker and blending it. Just a little bit more out here. And blending it. Seems pretty good. Maybe a little bit more here. And then going with Guamocho, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm taking that right up against the sticker again and just deepening it up. It looks like I have some weird patchiness going on here, as if I didn't put the primer down there, so that's weird. Let me try to stamp it on. Yeah, it's like not sticking. I really feel like it's because I didn't do a great job of applying the eyeshadow primer, but that's working a bit better. So I'm taking a clean brush and then just feathering out the edges of that. That is so strange. Do you see it like right here? It's looking kind of weird. a bit. Let's take the sticker off and see. It looks fine. So I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining things. So I'm gonna put down just a little bit of ABH primer. I'm not gonna take it all the way because I'm gonna be putting a shimmer this way, so I don't really need to bring it all the way, but I am gonna do it just out here, and you'll see why. So I'm taking Charo. This is such a great small little brush. It's the Refer 29. And I mean, it's just, look at how thin a line it can create. It might take a little bit more work because it is so tiny, but it is so sharp. It's really great for things like this. So I'm basically just gonna do an eyeshadow wing with this brush. Gonna take it a bit higher, and I'm just gonna keep going, and that's where I'm gonna do the wing. I'm probably gonna have to clean it up a bit. This is definitely a slightly more difficult kind of look, but it's okay. And I'm just gonna fill this in just a little bit. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be like nice and smooth over here because I'm gonna be going in with the shimmer like I mentioned. So I just wanna fill in this wing. And then I'm gonna clean up the wing out here with whatever is left of the ABH primer. Next, I'm taking the Fahrenheit Pixie Epoxy, and I'm gonna try to keep it not right against the green. Again, I'm just gonna be going this way and leaving the empty space. Taking Sagrado, and I'm gonna place it right in the center of my lid and blend it into the matte. Really trying to blend it in there so there's no harsh edges. And trying to keep the separation going. That is a really beautiful shade. I'm going in with Mesquite on the inner portion of my lid, again keeping that space there. And taking it right up against. This is a ColourPop brush, by the way. It is the E20. I don't think it comes separately. I'm pretty sure it's from a set, unfortunately. And I'm gonna take our Brazos and put it under my lower lash line. Going back with this brush and just cleaning up this cut crease section. Really just need to clean up like right here. Here's a second finished look I put on the Ardell 817 lashes. And in the waterline I have Punch from ColourPop. Third look, priming with the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer. Taking a Brazos and I'm gonna put it right in my inner crease. These are so pigmented, oh my god. But I'm picking up Mensaje and I'm gonna blend it into the edges of that. And also help blend it out here. Which is maybe like slightly brighter of a yellow. Going back in with a Brazos. And just blending it even more. I feel like it's not really blending that well in with the other shade. Just kind of feathering it out here. Next, taking Maria, which is this beautiful purpley, plummy dark shade. And I'm gonna be creating a wing. It's gonna look messy before it looks better, trust me. And just keep packing on, just help wing it out and feather out the edges of the liner. And going back in with Maria and just packing it more. And I'm gonna take it under my low lash line. I'm really just winging both of these looks out, huh? Taking the Glam Light Icing in the white shade to create a half cut crease situation right here. A little bit more. I really want it to be super, super light because I'm gonna go in with a yellow right here. I think I'm gonna go in with a yellow. I'm not gonna do a shimmer on this look. And then taking it this way. Tap this out here. And tap it out on my lid as well. Taking Mensaje. I'm gonna bring it right up against that edge. All over my lid and blending it down into the liner. And that actually is really, really beautiful. I think together is super fun. Going back in with my Maria shadow. Just going over the liner with that and just blending it into the yellow even more. Sharpening up this edge of the wing. And I'm also taking Mensaje under my lower lash line. I'm gonna use Tequila as an inner corner highlight. It's a little too dark for that, but it's fine. Here's the third finished look. I put on the 817 Lashes by Ardell, and in the waterline I have Punch from ColourPop. Fourth and final look, I'm priming with the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer. I'm going in with Te Adoro, and I'm gonna put it right into the crease. Oh, super pigmented. I think I'm gonna do a halo eye. I'm kind of feeling it. So I'm just gonna use that as a transition shade right in the crease. Going in with Guamuchil on the outside and the inner corner. I'm pretty much just tapping it on, and I'm gonna use one of the lighter greens to blend it out. Going in with Sentimientos. I'm gonna blend it into that. As well as my inner corner. And just putting on a little bit more out to deepen it up. I'm also going to take that under my lower lash line. And then taking Carino, and I'm going to put it next to that. Center of my lid, I'm just putting down a little bit of NYX glitter primer. I'm going to take it up into my crease. And I'm taking the deep teal shimmer shade. It's really, I mean, it's pretty metallic, but it's not that metallic to me. And I'm putting that on the corners and just a little bit upwards, and then going in with Tequila right in the center, in between it, and just blending it into the teal. I'm gonna go in with my finger a little bit and just see, I think that applies even better. And just try to kind of blend it into the teal. I feel like this brush really picks it up well, and I'm just gonna make sure that there's no harsh edges on the deeper teal. Just kind of trying to feather it out into the dark matte green. Going in with Te Adoro just a little bit more and just blending it right here, right in the crease. And just back in with Tequila. I'm gonna kind of be a little messy with it. I think I like that. Put on the Ardell 817 lashes, and in the waterline I have ColourPop Catsuit, and here's the fourth and finished look. So since I didn't use the 25% off code when I bought this palette, so I was using it with the $70 price tag that I paid for it in mind. Straight up, I don't think this palette is worth $70, just purely based on everything, and obviously brand can price their products however they want to. However, I just feel like that was such an extremely high price tag that is just really off-putting, and I feel like the 25% off really knocked it down enough where I feel like that's what the palette is worth. Definitely even better if you can get it even like at a higher discount, but I think just 25% off is right where I would price this palette out at after using it, doing 4 looks. This is definitely the very good Melt Cosmetics matte formula. The mattes perform beautifully. They blended together, they layered, just I had absolutely no issues. I really, really love these mattes. This is exactly like what I fell in love with when I first tried out Melt Cosmetics many, many years ago when they first launched. Now as for the shimmers, I have like mixed feelings on these shimmers. Honestly, I wore a look for a whole day. I believe it was the orange look, and I used the NYX glitter primer, and I don't know if these shimmers just don't really want to go with that, and if it's better to just use these shimmers without any sort of tacky base or glue. But I wanted to ensure the best longevity for me because I do have hooded oily lids, and I actually experienced quite a bit of creasing, and the shadow was kind of disintegrating a little bit in my crease as well. The shimmer shade, I mean, not the mattes. No issues with the mattes, but I was a little bit disappointed. And even now, just with this look, I've had it on for about like 20 minutes maybe, and I can already start seeing the same thing happening with some of the creasing. And I did use the NYX glitter primer, so I would potentially stay away from that. And so I think that's the main reason for me why this palette is not worth $70, just because of the shimmers. I think the mattes are so nice, and I do enjoy the smaller pans. Unpopular opinion, I really like this layout. I don't mind the more pans. I just don't love the shimmers in general. Melt shimmers have been such a hit or miss. These are some of the better shimmers from Melt, especially in comparison to the Millennial Pinks palette, for example. Those shimmers in there are absolute trash, and the one shade in the 420 palette that's a metallic is really, really bad as well. These are so much better. However, they're not my favorite. They're not shiny, they're not sparkly, they're a little bit more on the satin side. Some of them you can see in the pan that they look just like a little bit like they're going to be slightly chunky. Without looking chunky on the lid, they do smooth out. I do also want to mention that I feel like we didn't need all of these purples, and we definitely did not need 2 of the very similar taupey, like mid-tone lighter, well actually more like lighter beige shades. I mean, do you see a difference? Like, you can slightly see a difference, but I just, it's why have them? And I also feel like these 2 shades are a little bit similar. I would have enjoyed like a really, really deep cool tone brown in here to use with the reds and the greens. So I feel like that's really my main critique of this palette. Otherwise, I really like it. And there's something about Melt Cosmetics and the way that they do like deeper reds and purples. I think they're really good at them. When they're good, they're really good. And sometimes when they're bad, they're really bad. But this is definitely the better palette. I do believe also that this palette is made in Italy, which I'm not sure if the Beetlejuice collection was made in Italy, but that might have something to do with it, and I'm curious to see if their future palettes will also be made in the same lab in Italy, or if they will be made in the USA or something like that. I do believe that their other palettes are usually made in the USA. So those are my thoughts on the palette. As for the entire launch, I mean, everything looked absolutely beautiful, and packaging does play a part when it comes to pricing for sure. So the better the packaging, the more expensive the product is also going to be, because you have to factor that in. So I think that usually has a lot to do with some of the higher pricing for Melt Cosmetics products. However, I feel like this collection was just too big, there was too much, and it was too high priced, and it was clearly not selling because everyone was getting bombarded with emails from them about the sale, and also the fact that a 25% off code worked on like all the pieces in the collection. Because if you actually bought the whole collection, not in the PR kit, but like all the pieces separately with the 25% off code, you would have saved yourself $125, which means that the package was $125. And I understand that might be worth it for some people who really love to collect those kinds of things and display them and really see them as art, because they are art. However, I think for most everyone, it was really disappointing to see that, especially the people that paid full price for the PR launch, and nobody knew that it was going to be on sale, because the Beetlejuice collection, none of that stuff was on sale during Black Friday sales that they were having, even just like right when it launched. I'm not even sure that any of the Beetlejuice, at least the palettes, weren't ever on sale. Same with the Vida and Muerte palettes. Those definitely were not 25% off right when they launched, because they sold out really quickly. So I really feel like this launch was just a little bit of a miss for them, and I hope that they learn for next year. I can guarantee you there's not going to be a $425 PR box next year. I think that next year we're going to see a smaller collection or a better priced collection. But that's everything for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you picked this palette up and what you think of it. it. Do you think it's the better melt formula? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And that's everything for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you subscribe. There's so much indie makeup content, lots and lots of tutorials, lots of sparkly, shiny eyeshadow content uploading my channel, and much more to come. You don't want to miss out. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.